Hi, my name is Harsh, and I'm a global lead for disruptive technology at the World Bank. And I've been working on a lot of the use of technology for several different operational investments and analytics around the world in the last 24 years or so that I've been at the World Bank. And I also co-lead our hydroinformatics group. And I'd very much like to thank my colleagues, Anna Wallenstein, who's a Sustainable Development Director in Latin America as well and Caribbean, as well as Valerie Hickey and her team. She's a practice manager for environment, natural resources, and the blue economy in Latin America and the Caribbean for their inputs into this presentation as well. So we know that environment and natural resources are central to any work on sustainable development, and that's why we are rounding off a decade of focus on biodiversity across the world. And there's a lot of expectations from upcoming meetings like Kunming to try and see what new course could be charted in this regard. We also know that there's been a lot of accelerated development and use of disruptive technologies or technologies that have a tendency to disrupt old ways of doing business. But we still have yet to see the full force of using these technologies to benefit the poor and also to help us completely reimagine a lot of the work that we could be doing on the green and blue economies looking ahead. COVID-19 has also come in as a major spoiler in terms of a lot of the development efforts and threatens to undo a lot of work that has happened in the recent years, especially in places like Latin America and Africa. And one of the approaches now is to try and see how to use new technologies both to manage this disruption as well as to rebuild better and greener in the future. The World Bank has been working on a lot of initiatives across the world for the last 75 years and is composed of many different agencies that work with both the public sector and the private sector in order to further the cause of sustainable development and target extreme poverty and shared prosperity. And the primary ways in which we do this are through knowledge, convening, and financing of different types of investments. As you can see here, we've been lending about $60 to $100 billion in recent years every year and across the world. And we also expect to scale this up in the next few months for the COVID pandemic to try and help countries build back better and greener, looking at about $160 billion or so for the next 15 months. All of these investments usually have been trying to support the sustainable development goals and the sustainable development challenges in terms of economic, environmental, and social issues that stretch the resources to make sure that a lot of the very basic and evolving development challenges across the world are addressed in a systematic way. But today we can do this with a whole range of new technologies. For example, we now have technologies to disrupt decision making, changing the way we look at the data value chain from collecting data from different sources, Earth observation, on-ground sensors, mobile apps, and so on, as well as managing and analyzing this data using new types of approaches, including better algorithms, more open systems, AI, machine learning, and so on, and also improved access to the products so that people can help make decisions better once they have access to these systems. There's also a whole range of new technologies in terms of disrupting production systems, 3D printing, automation, new materials, nanotech, biotech, and so on, as well as new ways to improve interaction across different stakeholders using these technologies, such as these kinds of meetings to help knowledge sharing. The stakeholders that we work with tend to be at all levels, including global knowledge and other development partners, regional entities such as River Basin Organization or economic communities, national ministries relating to different aspects of development, all the way down to local community groups. And there's a lot of focus now on new ways of capacity development, which is very different now with a lot of the automation that we have at our disposal today. And also a whole range of services relating to new ways of helping countries serve their data better, e-packaging of a lot of this information and analytics, and also new kinds of partnerships and outreach, like we hope to work with many of you in the future coming up well as we've done in the past. And also on looking at co-financing and other types of investment support as well. So a big challenge is to try and see how to get a more integrated approach on data, both to look at bottom-up type data, which is collected from sensors and reports and other kinds of crowdsourcing apps and so on, and merge it with a lot of the top-down satellite drone type data sets, merge it also with a lot of the data that's been rescued and digitized from many different sources, and new types of analytics that can be then used and accessed on different platforms, both virtual platforms as well as in operational control rooms, and using a lot of the new types of technologies that we now have at our disposal. But the challenge is to see in a data value chain, not to start with the data, but to try and think about what decisions that need supporting. So for example, if we are looking at coping with floods, we might need knowledge on getting early warning on when the floods are coming and a recommendation of what to do once you get the warning. To do that, we need information about weather forecasts, hydrologic forecasts, inundation forecasts, and so on. And to do that, we need a lot of data and surveys and gauge information and Earth observation information that needs to be processed through models and other types of systems so that we can help make this decision that matters. So similar kinds of data value chains need to be developed and looked at in terms of their entirety, in terms of supporting clients on the ground in this regard, and not just one part of this system. Some of the examples of work we've been doing at the bank relevant for this session include work at the global level. For example, we have a global wildlife partnership that's been doing some excellent work to pull together a lot of the data and information. Also work on hydroinformatics at a global level and disruptive technologies, as well as using new trust funds like ProBlue and ProGreen and soon ProClean and GPS type trust funds and water trust funds to try and help develop some of these systems much better, both within the bank as well as with our clients. And also a lot of projects relating to productive landscapes, which take a more integrated approach and look at emission reduction programs, which can use a lot of geospatial data, as well as projects relating to territorial planning systems or NSDI type systems, water resources management, places like Peru on different basins, the Amazon Sustainable Landscapes program that's seeking to improve protected area management and creating new protected areas in really threatened part of the world right now. And also looking at Central America, some of the new blue economy and Caribbean oceanscapes type programs that are trying to bring in a lot of new technologies. A lot of use of Earth observation usually is focused on monitoring different aspects, including a lot of important issues like how's looking at weather from space or land use changes, or even monitoring sargassum weeds and so on, as well as looking at integrating this Earth observation data with the in situ data, improving the analytics, and then using it for planning and prioritizing investments in the medium to longer term, as well as in the shorter term for early alert systems that countries can use and regions can use for helping different stakeholders get access to information that could help them make more immediate decisions. And also the fact that these kind of systems provide low-cost, regional or global consistent coverage is really useful, especially in this day of automation. As an example, I'll just show you one of the e-packaging that we've done for data on the Amazon Sustainable Landscapes program to try and pull together a lot of data which can be explored as well as to some extent translated, at least the headings, in different languages, Spanish, Portuguese, English, and so on. And also a lot of internal systems at the bank that we are trying to create, which we are making external as well, where for any area leveraging the power of a lot of the online scripting and Google Earth Engine and other open systems, hopefully soon with Open Data Cube and other things too, to try and see, suppose we want to look at Facebook data for the Ica region in Peru, to try and see what does this mean in terms of, for that particular region, it's not very densely populated, so you can see what the population densities look like, or try to overlay these on some of the freely available global data sets. Some of the time series may be expensive, but you have versions of these that are accessible for free, which are the 30 centimeter kind of more curated versions to try and see what kinds of changes that we are looking at or what kind of landscape we are working in. However, there's still a lot of challenges and opportunities that we are still yet to realize, and many of these are related to open data services, because many of the countries still don't have great systems for making a lot of even basic data on water environment available. And so this is something we all need to work together to try and see how to improve these, as well as to use these as ways of improving new ways of doing training using machine learning, calibration, validation, and so on. So this comes to the heart of everything that we need to do to have more open data services, especially for the ground up type data, the bottom up data, which would then help make the top down data much better as well as socialization of new technologies. There's a lot of technologies out there, but most people don't know that it exists and what it can do and what's free and what's not and so on. And so these are things we really need to learn more about within our own institutions, especially also with our clients. And also new ways of providing financial resources and leveraging a lot of the local talent that there is, so that everyone can access and contribute to global good practices in this regard. So finally, the summary is that we know that there are many different technologies that can disrupt old ways of doing business. There's a need to learn more about these and to try and see how we can help more enabling frameworks be created so that everyone can help leverage these technologies for development. And the Americas have, both North and South, have much to offer in terms of global good practice. And it's great to see if you can also be a beacon for the rest of the world in terms of trying to learn from the kinds of new technologies and how they could work as well as learning from the rest of the world as well. And there's a lot of synergy that we can have going ahead in terms of working with Geo. We already are interfacing with Geo Overall and Geo Glows, Geo Glam, Geo Aquawatch, Geo Blue Planet, and many other initiatives, and also with the UN, with the UNGGIM and others, to try and see how we can work better in the future. And to help go to the heart of what this session and the whole the conference is about, which is to bridge the divide across different types of data platforms to make it more integrated across different sectors, connecting a lot of the abilities that we have with the needs that we have, and also across the digital divide, so that the poor can also get access to a lot of these services to help them live better in the future. So thank you all, and we look forward to a discussion.